Students, this is SriRam Shastri. I welcome you all once again to my new video session. So this video is a continuation of the evolution chapter of class 12. So in the last class we had discussed about the origin of life, origin of universe, origin of life. So in detail we had discussed about the different theories which have been put forth for origin of life, and we had also discussed about who had put forth them and what were their statements, what their consideration was. And in the end of that video we had also discussed about the most accepted theory, right? The most accepted theory is chemogenesis or chemical evolution of life. So it was hypothetically put forth by A.I. Oparin and J.B.S. Haldane. So presently in this video, we are continuing with the experimental proof of Haldane's theory or Oparin Haldane's theory. So chemogenesis or chemical evolution of life is something that is life on earth originated from the chemicals. This is the concept of that particular topic. So on the board you can see it is the Miller's apparatus, and we are here going to discuss about the Miller's experiment today, right? So Miller's experiment is regarding you can see it on the board. So this is the apparatus which was called as spark discharge chamber or spark discharge apparatus. He used tungsten electrodes which can withstand higher voltage, and they produced an electric spark similar to that of the thundering. So whatever primordial earth's condition were explained by Mr. Oparin and Haldane, all those parameters were implemented in this experiment to get certain products which might have been originated in the chemical evolution of life. So Stanley Miller and Professor Urey, these two people, combinedly worked on chemical hypothesis or chemical evolution of life. So Miller designed this glass apparatus. As you can see here, this is the apparatus. Okay, so this is the flask containing the water connected to vacuumized tubes. Here only during the entry of gases, the gases were entered into the chamber, and with the help of the vacuum knob, the conditions maintained inside the apparatus were completely vacuumized. So this is water, boiling water. Okay, so when the water boils and it releases water vapors, this particular theme was similar to that of the volcanic eruptions and releasing of gases. Along with volcanic eruptions, they used to also release certain gases like water vapors, ammonia, methane, and hydrogen. As there was no oxygen, it was a reducing atmosphere. There only reductive chemicals were released. So these chemicals were evolved from volcanic eruptions according to Oparin. Same concept is being used here in the Miller's apparatus also. He used the gases called methane, ammonia, and hydrogen in a proportion of 2 is to 1 is to 2. Now this proportion is also very important. You people in future are going to write about the entrance exams. Okay, so whatever points I have noted it on the board, I don't want them to be missed by you, so I have written it on the board. These are very essential elements for your what you call as understanding the concept as well as for your entrance exam. So 2 is to 1 is to 1, that is 2 parts of methane, 1 part of ammonia, and 2 parts of hydrogen. This was the proportion. Along with that, water vapors were also being used in this chamber. Now if we talk about this spark discharge chamber here, what was the maintenance is these tubes were connected to this chamber. This is called a spark discharge chamber. Now this spark discharge chamber, what you see here, they maintained a temperature of around 800 degrees Celsius, which was similar to the primordial earth's temperature, that was between 800, 900 to 1000. Okay, so many people believe it was below 1000 itself, and very few people had told about that, the earth temperature might have been over 1000, but it's not true. Again, many people still believe that experimental proof of Oparin Haldane's theory, here he maintained around 800 degrees Celsius temperature, and the voltage for producing the thundering effect of clouds was 75,000 volts. In that he produced the spark discharge from the fusing of positive and negative poles of electrodes. Okay, so when positive and negative live wires touch each other, they produce a spark, and that spark was resembling that of the thundering effect of the clouds, which was explained in O'Brien Haldane's theory. Now what happened here is the gases, because of that electric discharge, they use that energy for combining themselves into certain products or certain particular compounds. So primitive compounds were formed to condense them. Again, similar to that of formation of clouds and precipitation, condensation of those material took place here, and in the trap, or you can say the collecting chamber, whatever the water was collected in this condenser was used, where the cold water was circulated here, so that the hot water vapors can condense and they can be collected as liquid droplets, what was similar to that of raining. And the regions where the water got collected were rich in certain chemical components, and those what you call as components were called as hot dilute soup of life, and this trap or this particular chamber resembles the same thing there. So when the contents of this trap was analyzed, they got numerous microbiomolecules, like they got simple amino acids like glycine, alanine, aspartic acid, certain types of pentose sugar like ribose. So like that, they got different material. Many people had a question on what you call as Miller's experiment. So again, many people also raise the question on how could it be correct that this might have been happening in the earth. So exactly to say what exactly might have happened, we can just put forth the theories. But the most accepted theory for evolution of life, for origin of life on earth is chemical evolution of life, or chemogenesis. So this was explained by O'Brien and Haldane, experimentally proved by Stanley Miller with the help of again another person called Urey. Okay, so in your entrance exam, the what do you call as important things what are asked is the ratio. Sometimes the gases ratio is asked, the temperature maintained in the apparatus, the voltage maintained in the apparatus, the products which were produced from the experiments of Stanley Miller's chamber, and also they may sometimes give up these diagrams and ask the labelings of this particular diagram, which is given in NCERT. The same diagram you can remember with their labelings, and you can write your examinations in future. So I hope you might have understood about the discussion of what is the Stanley Miller's experiment and what may be the conditions they use. In short, if I summarize this, Stanley Miller's experiment is an experimental proof of Mr. O'Brien and Haldane's hypothesis of chemical evolution of life. Whatever conditions they were explained by O'Brien and Haldane, they were all maintained in this chamber. So similar to volcanic eruptions, the water vapors were released from the boiling water. These water vapors, because the chamber was vacuumized, they were only reducing components like water vapors, ammonia, methane and hydrogen. So methane, ammonia and hydrogen, they were used in a proportion of 2:1:2, along with that water vapors. So the tungsten electrodes were used, which were having a voltage of around 75,000 volts, and the temperature maintained was around 800 degrees Celsius. This was a condenser where cold water was circulating, so that the water vapors get cooled down and can be collected as liquid droplets. This trap is the region where these liquid droplets were collected, similar to that of hot dilute soup of life, and these chemical substances were then analyzed, and after analyzing they got the results which were exactly explaining acceptable explanation for chemical evolution of life, right? So I hope you might have understood this. Remember this topic, and in the next video session we'll continue with the different next topic of this evolution. Okay, thank you.